Hey, welcome to webisode 7 of Ask Mike. My name is Mike Blissett, and it's great to see you here on this Friday afternoon. If you're watching live, thank you for watching live. If you're watching it on Facebook, the post or the catch-up or whatever, whenever you're watching it, thank you in advance for doing that. I'm going to go straight into this week's question, and it came from a conversation I had with one of my clients earlier this week, one of my coaching clients, Sean. And by the way, thanks Sean for asking this, and I asked him if I could include this on the Ask Mike Facebook Live post, and he said yes. So that's great. So thank you so much for that, Sean. And Sean was asking, how can I position myself as an expert within my niche? And I think that's a really great question, whether you're a coach or you're a trainer, a speaker. Hi Philip, how you doing? Good to see you on the post. And yeah, whatever you're doing as a profession, I think it really helps your ability to sign clients if you can be seen as an expert, somebody who owns the territory. And so that was a great question. So once again, thanks Sean for asking that. And I think for me, it's about increasing your intellectual status or your area, your space within the industry, and having some capital around that, something tangible that people can go to and they can think, yeah, this is what he does, this is what she does. She's demonstrated a level of understanding and skill, knowledge, expertise. And I think that is really what it's about. And I think having that enables you to be in a position to attract business, to attract clients, rather than simply having to go out there and look for them and prospect and market and all this stuff. And just to say, even when you have built some capital, whether it's a book or videos or whatever it might be, and we're going to discuss that, it's still important to still go out and prospect for business, to market for business as well. But equally, when you have this ability to also attract the kind of people you want to work with as well, the kind of companies you want to work with as well, that I think covers all bases in your business, in that people come to you and you also go looking for new business as well. I think that's a great way to run your practice. So it's not about building this intellectual capital and then you don't have to market anymore. I think that's one way to I think it's one way to a failed business. So you're always going to have to do that. And as I said, it's about claiming your space, your territory, and becoming known for something. So as I was discussing with Sean, it was kind of, okay, so how can you do this? What is your space? What is your territory? How can you demonstrate this? Obviously, we're talking on Facebook, and either you're watching it on your Facebook news feed, and that is coming from my Facebook page. So I think it's a good idea. That's one place to start to build your capital, is on your Facebook page. And also blogs, your website, and this is a huge area. I mean, it's how I work with people for 6 months, a year, and I can tell you, after being in this business as a coach for 13 years now, since the beginning of 2003, I'm still adding things, I'm still adding ideas to mine. So it's not ever going to be a job that's finished, because as marketing and the ways we can let the world know that we exist and have these kind of conversations grows, so we have to grow and adapt and expand with it as well. So these are just some of the areas: websites, blogs, videos, that kind of thing, Facebook. One area that I did actually want to mention that is something I'm going to cover a little bit in this post today is the importance, or I guess the benefit, of having a book. Now, I know you've probably seen all those posts on Facebook and on the internet saying, oh yeah, how to become an author in 60 days or in a week or 90 days or whatever it would be. I mean, and they're all great and you know, whatever. You know, I worked with a lot of people in the creative space, including writers, within the coaching work I do, and I can tell you that the process is different for everyone, but the result is the same. Once you record your ideas, your conversation, your take on it. I think it was a guy, Peter Thompson, who I did some work with a few years ago. Brilliant guy, based here in the UK, and he's just got this this great idea that, and I completely agree with that. That really in the world there are very few new ideas now. What there is really our take on it. So I remember seeing a TV talk show years ago, and I think they were speaking to Boy George when he'd just become really famous and he was #1 and everybody thought he was fabulous. And the interviewer said, "So how is it, you know, being completely new and bringing something completely new to the, you know, to the world of music?" And his answer was just incredible. He said, "Well, actually, there's nothing new in music since kind of Mozart and Beethoven and I suppose the Beatles. You know, there are these 8 notes in the musical scale, if you know music, and you can have flats and sharps and different key signatures and rhythms. But after saying that, there's just the 8 notes. What is new and what's different is that it's his take on it. It's Boy George's version or interpretation on that." And the same with this space that you're in, whether that's as a coach or a trainer or a consultant or whatever it is you do. Whilst there are many coaches, consultants, trainers, and people who are business coaches or whatever, you know, that's great, but there's actually never been another you. So what is it about you that you've got to say? That it's your take on it, which is why I mentioned that you know, fantastic saying by Peter, you know, years ago. It's your take on it. So what is your take? I mentioned that to write a book, the process is different for everyone, but it's actually a pretty simple process. You have ideas, you at some point get them into some kind of tangible order, and then you produce it. So whether that's an ebook or an online version, Kindle, etc., or whether it's a hard copy, whether it's something with pages in, you know, that's printed. That's a simplified version. How you get to that point, how you go through that process is different for everyone. And just thinking about some people I have worked with in the last, I guess, few years recently, that have been going through this process. Because I think one of the reasons a lot of people don't write books or avoid or kind of put off writing their book is the fear that I just say it, they won't be able to do it. It doesn't mean they can't do it. It doesn't mean they're not intelligent enough or they don't have ideas. It just means they have a fear that they won't be able to successfully go through the process and finish up with something that we will call a book at the end of it. And that puts them off, that stops them. So how can you do that? I'm a huge believer in making things easy. And so I look for ways that other people have done it. And one particular client that comes to mind, I coached with quite recently, had this fantastic way of doing the research, getting ready to write the book. I don't know many authors just sit down one day, look at a blank screen on the computer and begin. I just don't know any. Whether it's in fiction or whether it's writing a factual book or a business book, what the people do is spend a long time doing research before, or that long time, how long is different for everyone, but they spend a period of time doing research, recording their ideas, whether it's scribbling notes or I know somebody years ago used to, when she saw ideas in magazines that would start a process, she'd rip pages out of the magazines, whether she was in a coffee shop or whatever, there would be this ripping sound, and it would go in an envelope, and she had several envelopes with different areas and that actually became chapters. And when she sat down to start writing, it's when all these envelopes were open, and she spent like a week with all this mess all over the floor in a home office, putting them into some kind of tangible order, and then taking notes from there to start writing what eventually became the book. The modern version of that is somebody I worked with quite recently, and he got his iPhone. I can't show my iPhone because I'm doing this on the iPhone, this Facebook post, but he got his iPhone out, and in the notes section he just got. And now I got a lot of notes in my iPhone. I've never seen as many notes, folders of notes that this client had, and it was impressive, it was amazing, and it inspired me. And I think that's the modern way of ripping things out of magazines and saving them in envelopes or stuffing them in your briefcase or your bag or whatever. And this is and equally when if I see something, whether it's a poster on the Underground or see something in a magazine, or I remember I was on a plane coming back from, I think it was Malaysia earlier this year, and I saw something in the in-flight sort of material magazine that you get on the seat in front of you, and it was a great article, and I didn't, number one, want to take the magazine, partly because it was heavy, and equally I wasn't really interested in anything else in the magazine, just this one article. So of course I took out my iPhone and took a picture of the page, because it's a great way, it's another folder on your iPhone. So it's about, number one, researching, noticing, and then recording what you notice. So whether that's folders on your phone, or whether it's physical pieces of paper that you keep somewhere in a file or an envelope or something, for a period of time that feels right, while this kind of this idea that could be a book will start to shape and form and start to come together. Now, I work from a title. Titles can change. It can be a working title, but I start with an idea. At the moment, I'm writing a book, and the working title is The Speaker Within. And it's about communication, and not just necessarily your voice, but what voice have you got? What kind of communication do you have with the world? And this is my working title for a book that I'm working on at the moment, and it's still forming. I'm still putting folders in places on my phone, and so that's what I encourage you to do, to spend an amount of time to do that. And the next thing is to, when you feel you have enough ideas, when you feel that it's the right time to start, is to schedule. People who are successful writers, who, whether they do something else as a profession, whether it's a trainer, a coach, a speaker, whatever it is, they do the thing, and they also write books. And what I notice with all of them that I've ever spoken to or worked with is that they don't just write the book when they've got a spare moment, or if they feel inspired, or if they remember. They actually schedule time in their calendar in the same way that they would schedule time with a client. And once that time is scheduled, they sit down and they do the work. And that's really important. I think it was Brian Tracy once said, I'm sure we're on a similar page here, I love Brian Tracy, once said that one of the main differences between really successful people and everybody else is that really successful people do what they say they're going to do, whether they're in the mood to do it or not. And it's as simple as that. So if you want to write a book, once you've done your research, schedule time in your diary, regular time in your diary. And again, mentioning somebody else, F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote books like, The Great Gatsby. Yeah, there was another one I was thinking of. It's gone at the moment, but anyway, yeah, he wrote The Great Gatsby. F. Scott Fitzgerald. He was very, very famous in his own lifetime. And one phrase that I remember reading of him was that he used to say that he used to write for the bin. Now, F. Scott Fitzgerald lived in the first part of the 20th century, and so it's before computers and iPhones and Samsungs and all the rest of them. So he had an old-fashioned computer that he used to press the keys down really hard, and that was his that was the tool that he used to write all these incredible books that he did. And he used to say that he used to write for the bin, and what he meant by that was that if he sat down each day with his piece of blank sheet of paper or in the old-fashioned typewriter with the idea that he had to write the next bestseller, he wouldn't have been able to do it. The pressure would have been too great. So what he said was that he just loved to write anyway. Even if he never wrote another book, he would still write every day because that's what he did, because he loved it. And he loved to tell stories through his writing. So he just lowered the bar, he lowered the pressure so much, so he just sat down and enjoyed it. And where the phrase comes from, writing for the bin, was that he said his process was he would write all day, so it would be scheduled, he would do it every day. And then at the end of the day, he'd read back what he'd written, the pages, and what was good, he would put on the desk. I don't know if he had a good pile, but a pile of good stuff, and what wasn't good would go in the bin. And as I say, it just lowered the bar, it took the pressure off, and he enabled him just to write freely. And that's what writers do. They write freely. They don't edit while they're writing. They don't read back at the end of every session and start to edit or critique themselves. They just write freely. Modern writers write freely, get what is known as the first draft done, and then after a period of time of being, going away and doing something different, so you start to disconnect from it, then you go back and you read the first draft again with a different set of eyes, with a new ideas. And sometimes you notice what didn't go so well, but more often than not, you notice actually how well you captured your ideas. So the reason I mentioned a little bit there on books, of course, there's lots more to do, and books take a while. I think my shortest one, my first one, about how to get motivated, 7 Steps to the Life You Want, I think that was the title, in 2003. It took me 6 weeks to write in a Starbucks coffee shop close to where I live, because I thought it would be really cool to go and sit each afternoon, about 4 or 5 afternoons a week, in a Starbucks coffee shop and write my first book. It just felt romantic, it felt cool, and so that's what I did. So it took me 6 weeks. And the longest one is probably the latest one, The Speaker Within. I've been working on it with these files, with these ideas in various forms for maybe 2 years now. When I sit down and actually start to write it, it will probably take maybe a few months, something like that. I would guess probably 3 or 4 months. As a writer, it's good to have support. It's good to have a team around you, not necessarily telling you what to write or editing or critiquing as you're doing it, but equally people that know you're in the writing process and support you in doing that, and make it easier for you to find this time, whether it's at home or whether it's in a coffee shop or whatever, to write regularly. Regularly is the secret word there. So that's kind of what I wanted to run through today. And yeah, if you want any more information, or if you want to discuss any aspects of how you can build your business and claim your space to be known as an expert within your industry, within your niche, because I tell you, when you are, you still have to do your thing, you still have to work and be the best you can be, but I can tell you, opportunities will come your way because you have that intellectual capital, because you have that book, because you make the videos, because you have the blog and all this stuff. And it's not about starting them all straight away, now, yesterday, whatever, but it is about starting with one. So considering what that would be for you, I think a great one to start with, if it fits with you, is a book, because a book, once it's written, it's your testament, it's your take on it at that point. And of course, once you've written that, once you open those kind of floodgates of ideas, whether it's straight away or if it's in a few years' time, you'll get ideas for more books and more ideas where you can record your take on it going forward as well. And that's why, I've got 5, I don't even know how many books. I think it's 5 ebooks and 1 printed, and this next one, Speaker Within, will be a printed book. It's not going to be an ebook. So, and then I've also ghosted and researched on other writers' books at various times through the years as well. So, yeah, once you start this process, I can tell you it's enjoyable. It's where you learn more about your expertise. You're more aware of your own space, your own territory. And once you're aware of that, the phone will ring, emails will ping, and opportunities will come your way, because, and this is where we began this post today, you will start to be perceived as an expert in your industry. Not somebody that's just on the internet saying, hey, I'm an expert, how to be an expert, but somebody who actually has a body of work that says something. So hopefully that's useful for you. Thanks folks that have been and stayed a while and equally kind of well. I think Mahmoud is on the call. Also Bruno, how you doing, Bruno? Good to see you. Philip, you lasted well. You're still there, my friend, and congratulations on your success. It's fantastic to hear you and hear from you and hear what you're doing. So yeah, if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up or like it. And equally, if you're on my Facebook page, please scroll to the top of the page and click that like button so you like the page, and it just helps us keep in touch. You'll get a little alert to say that I'm doing other Facebook live posts and when I posted something, and who knows, they might even be useful as well. And yeah, so keep in touch. If you've got any questions that you want to ask me on aspects of whether it's presentation skills or building successful business or coaching, I do a lot of coaching and training, then send me a message, leave a comment below this, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. It's Friday afternoon here in London. I know, Philip, it's a lot later than that over in Singapore. So wherever you are, have a fantastic weekend, have a peaceful and a happy weekend, and I'll talk again soon. Take care.